വിവരക്കേടിന്റെയും വിവേകമില്ലായ്മയുടെയും പര്യായമായ പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി ലോകമെങ്ങും ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ജനങ്ങളെയും മാനം കെടുത്തുമ്പോൾ ഇന്ത്യയുടെ പ്രതിപക്ഷ നേതാവ് രാഹുൽ ഗാന്ധി ഇന്ത്യയിൽ മാത്രമല്ല ലോകമെമ്പാടുമുള്ള രാജ്യങ്ങളിൽ ഇന്ത്യക്കാരുടെ മാനവും യശസ്സും ഉയർത്തുകയാണ്. ഇത്രയും വിവേകമുള്ള അറിവുള്ള ഒരു രാഷ്ട്രീയ നേതാവ് ലോകത്തിലുണ്ടോ എന്ന് ലോകമെങ്ങുമുള്ള ജനങ്ങൾ അത്ഭുതത്തോടെയാണ് മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത്. ബ്രസീൽ, കൊളംബിയ, ചിലി, പെറു എന്നീ സൗത്ത് അമേരിക്കൻ രാജ്യങ്ങൾ രാഹുൽ ഗാന്ധി സന്ദർശിച്ചപ്പോൾ നാട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് കൂലി കൊടുത്ത് വിളിച്ചു വരുത്തിയ നാടക നടികളെ കൊണ്ട് കരച്ചിൽ നാടകം കളിപ്പിക്കുകയോ ഡാൻസ് കളിപ്പിച്ച് സ്വയം ആഹ്ലാദിക്കുകയോ വിഡ്ഢിത്തരങ്ങൾ വിളിച്ചു പറഞ്ഞ് മാസ്റ്റർ സ്ട്രോക്ക് ആണ് എന്ന് സ്ഥാപിക്കുകയോ അല്ല ചെയ്തത്. മറിച്ച് സൗത്ത് അമേരിക്കയിലെ ഈ 4 രാജ്യങ്ങൾ സന്ദർശിച്ച രാഹുൽ ഗാന്ധി ഈ രാജ്യങ്ങളിലെയൊക്കെ ഏറ്റവും മികച്ച യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റികളിലെ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളും അധ്യാപകരുമായി ടെലിപ്രോംപ്റ്റർ ഇല്ലാതെ വിവിധ വിഷയങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ച് തുറന്ന് സംവാദം നടത്തുകയാണ് ചെയ്തത്. വിദ്യാഭ്യാസം, ജനാധിപത്യം, ജിയോപൊളിറ്റിക്സ്, ടെക്നോളജി എന്നുവേണ്ട എല്ലാ മേഖലകളെയും കുറിച്ചുള്ള ചോദ്യങ്ങൾക്കാണ് അദ്ദേഹം വിവേകപൂർവ്വം മറുപടി നൽകിയത്. യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റികൾ പോയിട്ട് സ്കൂളിന്റെ പോലും പടി കാണാത്ത ആളുകൾക്ക് ഇത്തരത്തിൽ ഡിബേറ്റുകൾ നടത്താൻ പോയിട്ട് ഈ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുടെ മുന്നിൽ നിവർന്നു നിൽക്കാനുള്ള യോഗ്യതയോ തൻ്റെ ഇടവുമോ ഉണ്ടാവുകയില്ല എന്ന് നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. ഇന്ത്യക്കാർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ മോദിയെയും കൂട്ടരെയും പോലെ വിവരം കെട്ട കൂട്ടങ്ങളല്ല, മറിച്ച് വളരെയേറെ വിവരവും വിവേകവുമുള്ള ആളുകൾ ഇന്ത്യയിലുണ്ട് എന്ന് വ്യക്തമായി ലോകത്തിന് കാണിച്ചു കൊടുക്കുന്നതാണ് അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ഈ സംവാദം. ഇവിടെ രാഹുൽ ഗാന്ധി ചിലിയിലെയും പെറുവിലെയും യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുമായി സംവദിക്കുകയും അവരുടെ സ്ക്രിപ്റ്റഡ് അല്ലാത്ത ചോദ്യങ്ങൾക്ക് ടെലിപ്രോംപ്റ്റർ നോക്കാതെ സ്വന്തം അറിവിൽ നിന്ന് സ്വയം ഉത്തരം നൽകുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന മനോഹരമായ ഈ വീഡിയോ മുഴുവനായി കാണേണ്ടതാണ്.
Thank you so much for receiving us. Welcome to Peru. I hope one day you can find your way again to our university, the Pontificia Universidad Católica del Perú. In fact, I was amazed. I have received dozens of questions about you as a leader, about the Congress Party, foreign policy of India, some domestic issues. So I made like a selection of questions, beginning with the following one. How can India and China avoid an escalation of their strategic rivalry? Because of course, India and China are participating together in BRICS Plus, in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But of course, as neighbors, they have a lot of issues, beginning with the close relation between Pakistan and China. So how to imagine peaceful relation as neighbors?
I mean, India has a partnership with the United States. That doesn't mean that we have an antagonistic relationship with China. I think there's more than enough room for India to compete aggressively with China without ever going into conflict. You know? There are issues on our border. We also have an issue with their military partnership with the Pakistanis. But it's nothing that we cannot resolve and nothing that cannot be sorted out.
Okay.
They are the biggest producer in the world. Right? They produce pretty much everything. For us, not having a powerful manufacturing sector, not being a global producer is a problem. Right? Because without that, we cannot give jobs to our people. China has proven to the world that you can manufacture in a non-democratic environment. So we want to build a alternative manufacturing system, and that's why, you know, partnership with Peru or partnership with the United States is something that's interesting to us.
Okay. Talking about Peru, about Latin American countries, how can we think about, imagine a deeper relation with India?
I think the first step is actually opening the imagination of both countries to each other. And one of the reasons I've come here is to understand what Peru is going through, what you're dealing with, what are the issues right now. And I think that's the first step in building a relationship. Right? From an Indian perspective, we have certain strengths. We have a extremely high-tech, low-cost medical system, healthcare system, very strong education system with regards to medicine, with regards to engineering. So that's areas where we can very easily cooperate. Whether it's eye hospitals, eye care, cancer care, heart disease, we've already done a lot of the homework, and there's a lot of room for partnership. And also, I think there's a lot in common between a country like Peru and India. We are old civilizations, and there's a lot that we bring to the table beyond, you know, just manufacturing and trade. Way of thinking about things, culture, different traditions, and I think when one uses those frameworks to communicate, it's quite powerful.
Okay. Great. You have criticized the BJP's record of jobless growth. Which productive sectors would the Congress Party prioritize to, you mentioned it, generate millions of quality jobs? And what industrial or fiscal instruments would you put in place?
The main criticism in terms of manufacturing that I've sort of put on the table against the BJP is that they are creating massive trading monopolies, right?
Yeah.
So our biggest companies are not manufacturers, they're not producers, they're trading companies, and they have massive monopolistic power in India now. And a lot of the policies that the BJP has been following are designed to weaken and destroy the small and medium sector. I believe that the small and medium sector is the backbone of manufacturing. You know, small medium companies eventually become big companies if you support them. That's the main criticism, which is that they demonetize the economy and destroy the cash flow of all these small and medium companies that then collapsed. And then they've instituted a goods and services tax which punishes production, helps consumption but punishes production. And I feel that the goods and services tax needs to reward production, needs to want Indian companies, Indian people to produce stuff. So that's at a broad level. On specifically where we would focus, certainly agriculture, adding technological capability to agricultural system, building cold chains, building food processing structures, then low-end manufacturing, you know. And then of course there are areas where we are very strong, which are important, IT sector, software industry. So these would be some of the areas where we would focus. But the basic thing is, look, empower people and don't create monopolistic structures that destroy value.
The leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha has been a member of parliament since 2004.
How can India respond to the challenges connected with the challenges of the climate change without slowing its economic development?
Everybody on the planet is facing a number of transitions. Okay? We're facing a transition in how we move. So we are now facing a transition. We're going from internal combustion engine and petrol to electric motor and storage done by battery. Okay, so that's going to be one foundational transformation that is coming. The second one is we are moving to renewable energy and direct sources of energy, solar, wind, probably some element of nuclear, and moving away from the really polluting elements like coal. The third transition that we're facing is the power of the United States is decreasing, right? So the United States was a superpower, is a superpower. And what the United States did, whether you like them or you don't like them, they created an atmosphere of peace in the world. They built the infrastructure, they built the systems, the standards, and they broadly enforced them. And that's the third transition that is happening, is the United States is now rapidly losing power. And it's being challenged. How is it losing power? It's losing power because it's not able to enforce control. And you can see that in Ukraine, you can see that in Gaza. It's losing power because people are challenging their currency system, their financial system. And you can see that, you know, in what the Chinese are doing, what the Russians are doing, what the Saudis are doing. Large countries have to make sure that they smoothly go through these transitions. Our biggest challenge, of course, is that China is our neighbor, and we have a very strong relationship with the United States. And in all likelihood, tension between China and the United States is going to grow. You can also look at these transitions as opportunities. And what is the opportunity? That a large country like India makes this transition, thinks strategically about this transition, in terms of solar, in terms of wind, in terms of nuclear, in terms of the energy transition, and also the mobility transition, movement from, you know, petrol cars to electric cars. I believe if you think about them as strategic, you can benefit, you can build the standards, you can build the architecture of this transition, and you can do quite well.
Like your father, who introduced computers into India, and then also IIM and IITs. So I would like to know what are your educational policies or reforms which you will bring in for Indians who do not have access to education.
Education has become too expensive in India. The government has sort of stepped back from education and let private players run the education system. I feel that the government has to actively be involved in education, and the government should spend much more money on education than it currently does. And it shouldn't just abrogate the responsibility of education to private players. There's a space for private players, perfectly happy for there to be private universities and private colleges, but there's got to be high quality, low cost education provided by the government. The second thing is that India has a social system. It has upper castes who dominate the social system, and then it has middle castes and lower castes, what are called middle class castes and lower castes, who form the bulk of the Indian population. Approximately 90% of the Indian population is middle castes and what are called lower castes. And their history, their tradition, their thought system is not included in our education system. Our education system is essentially an education system of the top tier of society. So I would like to include the history, the traditions of our, what we call Adivasis, our tribal people, of our middle castes, of our lower castes in that system. The Indian education system has taken massive damage over the last 10 years because the scientific temper has been destroyed. And it has been destroyed by the current government, who doesn't believe in scientific temper, in a scientific way of thinking. And I think that is something that needs to be repaired, and we need to reintroduce scientific temper, logical thinking into our education system. So those are the type of things that I would do. Where are you from?
From India.
No, I know, but from where in India? UP, okay. Where in UP?
Balia.
Huh? Balia, okay.
Most of us are students here, and we are astronomers in Chile and several different places. And it's incredible here because Chile has 70% of all the telescopic researchers are actually research facilities in the world. So it's been incredible, but as you said, we have been a bit thinking about, because we are doing our PhDs outside, then we are thinking to do our research outside. Then we want to go back to India and build what we are learning. But there aren't a lot of facilities which we are aware of, or maybe we do not know of. So we wanted to know what is your policies on that.
I didn't know that there were people from India studying astronomy over here. So this is a great thing for me to learn. I think we should be open-minded in building these type of systems. And if you're here and you're working on it, and you can guide us exactly what we need to do to develop it in India. So you asked me what would I try to do in the education, but the crux of what I'd like to do is that, what's your name?
Amrita.
The curiosity that Amrita has, I would like to protect it in the Indian education system and make sure that she can ask questions, she can raise issues, she can think openly without being constrained in any way. So that would be the central idea. Thank you, Amrita.
Thank you so much.
And this is, by the way, in India, this is under attack. The idea of free thinking, the idea of being open, the idea of being scientific, of being logical, this is under tremendous attack in India currently. And that's something that we want to defend. Thank you very much. It was an honor for me to come here. And please visit India.